Monday, last Wednesday, kicked off this season of Lent. This time, these 40 days before Easter, that we have to reflect on all that Jesus has done for us. A time where we can remember how much our sin cost our Savior, where we can marvel over what he did on the cross, that he willingly left the throne room of heaven, came to earth, willingly endured the shame and the punishment and the pain that we deserved by going to the cross. A time where we can press in to the Lord all the more through prayer, maybe through fasting, and really prepare our hearts to celebrate the fact that there is an empty tomb. We're going to look today at a passage in Luke. This takes place after Jesus has raised from the dead, and he's found walking along the road with two other men. So Luke 24, beginning in verse 13. Now that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. They were talking with each other about everything that had happened. As they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" They stood still, their faces downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you only a visitor to Jerusalem and do not know the things that have happened here in these days?" "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. The chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one who was going to redeem Israel. And what is more, it is the third day since all this took place. In addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning but didn't find his body. They came and told us that they had seen a vision of angels who said he was alive. Then some of our companions went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but him they did not see." Looking back specifically at verses 20 and 21 here, after these two men have just told Jesus all that happened, the dismay of the cross, you can hear that in their voice. And they say in verse 21, after explaining that Jesus was crucified and died, they said, "But we had hoped that he was the one." Basically, they're saying we had hoped that Jesus was the Messiah. We had hoped that he really was the one fulfilling all the prophecy that we know, that he came from God to redeem his people. But then they say, essentially, but obviously we were wrong. It wasn't him. He wasn't the one, because look what happened. He was crucified. He died. So there's no way that this could be part of God's redemption story for his people. They couldn't make sense of all that had happened. And so because it didn't make sense to them, it wasn't logical to them that that would be part of God's redemption story, they thought, oh, well, there's no way this is right. There's no way that this is who Jesus actually is. And as a result, they lost hope. The verb tense, we had hoped, indicating we're no longer hoping. How do we do this? How do we assess our circumstances based on our own logic and understanding? And how do we allow that to derail our hope? How do we miss the activity and the plan of God that he is unfolding in our lives? How do we miss the story that he is writing How do we take pieces of that story, seasons that are hard or seasons that we don't like, seasons that just do not make sense to us, and how do we allow that to derail our hope? So let's ask the Lord this week, in this start of this Lent season, just like these two men on the road to Emmaus. And they missed it. They missed it. They missed their own assessment of what had happened. They missed the point. So let's ask the Lord, how do we miss it? How do we miss what he's doing? How do we not notice the unexpected ways that he's at work in and through our lives because we're relying on our own logic and our own understanding? Even circumstances that might cause us to lose hope. Now we have to remember, hope has a name, and that name is unchanging and everlasting. Therefore, our hope is not based on circumstances. Our hope is not based on our understanding of circumstances. Our hope is steady because hope has a name, and that name is steady. We have the gift of having the whole gospel, the whole redemption story. These two men on the road to Emmaus, they didn't have that. And so they lost hope because what they could see did not make sense to them. Sometimes we can lose our sense of awe and wonder over the gospel, the fact that Jesus did leave his throne. He laid aside his rights and his privileges as the only Son of God in order to humble himself and come in human form. So even though we have the whole story, let's ask the Lord to give us fresh awe and fresh wonder over the gospel story, over the fact that Jesus would come. Let's have fresh wonder over the depth of his love, that he would come and that he would endure the cross for us. The unexpected in life, the things that are not logical to us, that defy human understanding, it can derail our hope. But let's ask the Lord to remind our hearts that our hope is secure because our hope is in him and the tomb is empty. I hope you have a blessed week. I'll see you soon.